What's good, YouTube? Why does that sound so far away? I don't know. I have to figure that out over the weekend. Let's get started.
And here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
Suppose we go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream,
To be given the right of a human being to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. It is Friday, October 9th, 2015. I want to thank you for joining us wherever you are, whenever you're listening, even if it's Thursday of next week and you're listening to this podcast. I want to thank you for joining us. Breaking news that is coming across my, well, I don't have a wire, but this is the same concept. It's coming across my phone right now. A shooting, another shooting, just another day in America. One person killed, 3 wounded at Northern Arizona University campus. A shooter opened fire on Friday at Northern Arizona University Flagstaff campus. The school announced through Twitter. The university said that 1 person was killed and 3 people were injured in the attack. A university spokesperson confirmed the news on ABC. The suspect was in custody early Friday, the university stated. The wounded are being treated at Flagstaff Medical Center. So that's just coming across the news. This is happening early morning. It's extremely early morning in Arizona. And so just another day. Unfortunately, that's just the run of the mill day in the United States, with out of control gun violence of every fashion, whether it's gang violence or whether it's school mass shootings or whether it's a lover's quarrel, if I use an old fashioned term, right? But this is when people who are angry and in the heat of a moment or in the middle of a psychological break or determined to just do something nefarious and evil, when they can get access to weapons, this is what happens. And there's no need for a long drawn out commentary on this. This is quite honestly just another day. This will not be considered a mass shooting because only 1 person died. So this falls into that gray area of people getting killed, a lot of people getting shot, but still not considered statistically as a mass shooting. But just another day in the United States of America. And with that said, I'm going to move on past that story. We'll keep an eye on it and see how the other victims are doing. But I do want to, what can you say? I don't think there's anything else that could be said, and it becomes repetitive and it becomes redundant. And sometimes you just have to move on. Let me move on with this. I unfortunately can't stay with you guys all the full hour this morning. I do need to break away at 8:45, 15 minutes till the hour, so that I can get down to the city and take care of some things that I need to do. But because I'm leaving early today, I'm going to make sure that I chop up some videos and give you guys some nice segments that you can go and have enough of me to make it through the weekend. I want to thank some people. I want to thank a lot of the listeners who send me articles and keep me up to date. Davin Lewis from YouTube, he sent me the article on Rupert Murdoch on yesterday, and he also sent me the article on the Arizona shooting this morning. So I want to thank him. And actually there's another, I think he had a username. I'm better with real names than I am usernames, so I apologize. But one of the YouTube listeners sent me a link to 270towin.com. And at that website, it gives you all of the scenarios, possible paths to winning the White House. And they sent me that because on Wednesday's show, I said I wanted to see a matchup between Marco Rubio and Hillary Clinton, and Marco Rubio and Bernie Sanders, because just from my anecdotal observation, I think that Marco Rubio would be the strongest against Hillary Clinton and the strongest against Bernie Sanders. And sure enough, the data is panning that out, right? So if you go to 270towin.com, you can find different scenarios and match them up, mix and match, choose your destiny kind of thing. And also, if you go to realclearpolitics.com, they have those same type of matchups. On the Real Clear Politics, they showed that Hillary Clinton and Marco Rubio were within the margin of error, a statistical tie. So I was right about that, and I think the establishment knows that, and so I still believe that Marco, saving some type of miraculous failure on his part, is some type of controversy. I think there are some skeletons in his closet, but I think he's good enough to keep them suppressed. I think he's going to be the nominee. So barring any type of crazy October surprise, but I guess we are in October, huh? Barring anything like that, I think Marco Rubio is going to be your nominee for the Republican Party. So thanks to everyone who sends me links. Please continue to do that. It helps me stay on top of things, and definitely want to give you guys credit for that. In other news, I was listening to where do I want to start? Because there's a story out of Alabama, the voter suppression story that's still going on. There's also the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, who was up for the Speaker of the House. Let's start there. Kevin McCarthy has dropped out. He dropped out of the race. The election was scheduled to be yesterday. He dropped out at the last minute, and so Speaker Boehner had to cancel his Tonight Show appearance. He had to cancel the election because this has left the Republican Party in disarray because they don't have a heir apparent to the Speaker of the House. So some solutions have been thrown around. One Republican is calling for a bipartisan committee to come and select a Speaker of the House, but I don't think that's going to work because the desire of the Republican caucus, many people who make up the Republican caucus, is to have a more conservative, more intransigent Speaker of the House, which is why they want to get rid of John Boehner in the first place. There is a faction, and I believe it's called the Freedom Caucus in the Republican Party, that does not want cooperation in any circumstance whatsoever. And they are holding the Republican Party hostage. So this bipartisan committee that has been recommended or suggested, rather, that's dead on arrival. There's nobody is interested in doing that from the Republican end. I'm sure some Democrats would be interested because generally when you elect the Speaker of the House, the minority party does not have any input because it's all about a simple majority vote. So from that regard, it looks like they are going to go back to the drawing board and try. Here's a name that came up. This is the interesting part. Now that Kevin McCarthy is out of the way, Jason Chaffetz is pretty much just a long shot. He doesn't really stand a really good opportunity. Another name, the majority whip, Steve Scalise, has come up, and he is being considered to be the next Speaker of the House. So he was going to be the House Majority Leader, which is different than the Speaker of the House. But now that Kevin McCarthy is out of the way, Steve Scalise is the next potential Speaker of the House. Here's a problem with Steve Scalise. He is, I don't want to, you know what? My memory is failing on me. I know that he is guilty of speaking to white supremacist groups, and he has described himself as David Duke without the baggage. I can't say that he is a former Klansman. I really, because I'm just going off memory, and right now I can't remember if I have some really solid sources that say he is an actual former Klansman, but he has most certainly spoken to white supremacist groups and described himself as David Duke without the baggage. So this is potentially the next Republican Speaker of the House. And you know what? This is good for the Republican Party because this is good for them. When you play with fire, you get burned. When you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. When you entertain the crazies in your base, you end up getting stuck with a white supremacist, an open white supremacist as your next leader. So I think this is good. This is good on them. A Democratic Democratic House representative posted and this is hilarious. My wife just sent this to me this morning, so I'm just trying to pull it up. He posted a Craigslist article for an opening for the speakership, and it reads. I have it on the screen over here, and I'll read it for the radio audience as soon as I can get my mouse under control here. Let me just zoom in a little bit for you guys online so that you can see it as well. So, Speaker of the House, this is on Craigslist. Are you an American citizen? Do you have experience negotiating hostage situations? Are you ready for the challenge of a lifetime? Then this job is for you. We are seeking an extremely patient and motivated person to lead the U.S. House of Representatives. Responsibilities include keeping the government open, avoiding a default on the U.S. debt, maintaining women's access to health care, managing multiple investigative committees aimed at attacking Hillary Clinton, explaining to the Freedom Caucus the concepts of compromise and democratic governance. Requirements: proven ability to work with irrational people who pursue narrow priorities at the expense of millions of others. Proficiency in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And this was my favorite, babysitting experience strongly preferred. No congressional experience is needed. So there's a job opening for the Speaker of the House. And I suggest that you apply, because according to our U.S. Constitution, you do not have to be a sitting member of the House of Representatives to be elected as the Speaker of the House. Now, there has never been, of course, you know, I did my reading this morning, right? There's never been a Speaker of the House that was not a member of the House of Representatives, but there is no requirement in the Constitution that the Speaker of the House be from Congress. So that means Joe the plumber can apply or could run and campaign to be the next Speaker of the House. So there's some interesting times ahead. I think what's ultimately going to happen in this entire scenario is that John Boehner is just going to stay there until they have someone, but then that window is going to close where we pretty much don't care. Because as we get closer to the election, not only do we think that the president is a lame duck, but the House, they're a lame duck anyway. So there may be someone who comes in as a token Speaker of the House until the next election cycle is over and until the new majority or the new representatives that are elected in 2016 can take office in 2017. So if we don't have anyone, I would say if there's nobody in place by January, February of 2016, I think it's going to fall into that category of, you know, just put somebody there to get the job done and to, you know, run for office or whatever, because nobody's going to care. All right, so that's that. The next thing on my list is this Alabama voter suppression that I've talked about extensively. Not really extensively. I've talked about it, but I want to talk about it a little more. And I want to do it in a tale of two reports. And one of them, I'm going to just have to be descriptive, because no matter how hard I tried this morning, I could not hijack that video. I mean, I'm pretty good at grabbing any video on the internet now, but this one, you know, it just kind of eluded me. So I'm going to have to describe this particular video. The other one is an audio clip from NPR. The audio clip is an interview. And I cannot remember this guy's name. It's an interview with the state Secretary of State of Alabama discussing their efforts to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to get an ID to vote. This, despite the fact that they have closed 31 DMV in 31 counties, DMV locations where people would go and get their license, which is the number one voter ID used in the nation. If you have to have a voter ID, most people just use their driver's license. Well, there have been over 31 closures. This is, let me give you a little background before I go into the tale of two interviews, because I want to show you the propaganda and I want to show you what happens when you ask a follow-up question. But before I go there, let me just give a little bit of background on this, because I think it's important to understand. So back in 2014, when the U.S. Supreme Court voted in Shelby County versus Holder, they voted 5-4, and they struck down a provision a provision of the Voter Rights Act, which directly affected Shelby County, Alabama, and affected a lot of other counties in the South. This provision that they struck down was in place so that any change made in particular counties to voter laws had to be pre-approved by the Justice Department. This is significant because the counties that had to have pre-approval were all at the time guilty of some type of voter suppression, of systematic voter suppression. And so to offset the propensity to suppress minority voters, the Voting Rights Act included a provision that required that any change to their policies required the Department of Justice approval. Shelby versus Holder, Eric Holder, the Supreme Court decision struck down that provision. And that opened up the ability for counties who have had a historical record of voter suppression to now be able to make moves and change their voting rights laws without approval of the Department of Justice. The very first thing Alabama goes and does is to make it a requirement that when you go to vote, that you have a voter ID. It's already pretty much a requirement across the board. I think there may be some other counties, that states that allow universal registration, but in most counties where you have to actively go register, you have to provide an ID at the time of registration. And this was a famous clip by Colin Powell discussing, he said, no, I don't think that people need to be required to show ID when they go to vote, because they've already shown ID when they registered. And having to show ID again when they go to vote is just a stumbling block to put in front of people. So now you have Shelby County and other counties in Alabama, and not only Alabama, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, all the southern states that had systematically suppressed the vote. Now they were free to make these changes. And the first thing they did was made it a requirement that you come with a state or federal photo ID to vote. The next thing that they have done is to shut down Department of Motor Vehicle locations in almost 30 counties, or in over 30 counties, if I'm not mistaken, in over 30 counties. And here's something that stood out. Every single county in which blacks make up more than 75% of registered voters saw their driver's license offices closed. They're trying to guise this as this is just a business decision, but in reality, their quote unquote business decision has directly affected the counties that are predominantly poor and predominantly black. And 10 of those counties that they have closures in previously voted for President Obama in 2012. Now, that's the backdrop. There's one more piece of backdrop that I want to put in here, and it's all about the intentions. I don't care what people say. The truth eventually comes out because these people are not as smart as they think they are. I want to play this clip of former Pennsylvania GOP chairman Terzai. That's a long title. The former Pennsylvania Republican chairman Terzai at a rally for Mitt Romney. This is what he said in 2012, for which he lost his position. Listen.
Voter ID, which is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state of Pennsylvania. Done.
Let's let him say that again. And actually, I'm going to play the video actually for the people on YouTube. This is the video. I want you to, so when you ask the question, ask a Republican, what is the purpose of these voter ID laws? What is the purpose?
Voter ID, which is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state of Pennsylvania. Done.
One more time, and this time I'll cut the applause. But I want you to hear how excited. This is at a Republican rally in 2012. They are excited for the voter ID laws. And so again, what is the purpose of these voter ID laws?
Voter ID, which is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state of Pennsylvania. Done.
I don't know if there's any other way to make it plain. The purpose as expressed by this Republican chairman in 2012 of voter ID laws, are the changes that are being made to these to voter laws in various states, which includes the requirement of voter ID, has always been about forwarding the Republican Party. You heard it from the horse's mouth. And this is a guy in Pennsylvania, ostensibly in the North, right? You just imagine what they're saying. So that's the backdrop. Now, I want to go back to this clip. I have two clips. Actually, no, I only have one clip, and the second one I have to describe. This is Alabama Secretary of State, and trying to get his name. His last name is Mitchell, I believe, right? Yeah, John Merrill, not Mitchell, John Merrill, Alabama Secretary of State of John Merrill. This is him on NPR this morning, or was it yesterday? It was someday. And I want to cue it up. Give me a second to cue it up. But the reason I want to play this is because I want you to listen to how he is explaining how aggressive they are with their mobile voter registration campaign, and how they're doing so much advertising and so much marketing, and they're going to all of these communities, and they're proactively, aggressively making sure that every person has an opportunity to get a voter ID. And this is how he puts it on NPR. So you guys got to give me a second.
Voting rights activists are
hush right there. I want to skip to, I believe it's at the 2-minute mark.
He says residents without a valid ID for voting can get a free one at every county board of registrars. He says the state has a mobile unit driving county to county to offer voter IDs. Merrill says they've been getting the word out.
This has not changed anything that we're doing or the way that we're doing it, because we already had the most aggressive, assertive photo ID voter registration effort in the history of the state.
Alabama's governor says the call for a federal investigation is ill-informed.
All right, that's enough. My clips are a little raggedy this morning, but you get the point. So on NPR, he described it as the most aggressive, most proactive. We're going across the state, and we're doing everything necessary to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to vote and to get an ID so that they can vote. No follow-up question, at least that they put in the NPR article. Go to Chris Hayes, which normally I'm not really a fan of Chris Hayes because sometimes he's boring. But when that man is effective, he is highly effective. He had the same exact Alabama Secretary of State, John Merrill, on his show. That's the clip I couldn't get. MSNBC is getting a little more rigorous with their encryption, but that's fine. I can describe it. He had the same exact Secretary of State on his show, and he asked him about this mobile campaign. And so John Merrill went right back into the same propaganda, same talking point about how they're aggressively going and proactively going into communities and making sure that everyone who needs a voter ID can get a voter ID. So nothing has changed, nothing to see here, folks. Everything is fine. And Chris Hayes asked a simple follow-up question, just one simple follow-up question. How many people has this mobile campaign registered, or has this mobile campaign provided IDs for? The answer, 29. 29 people in the state of Alabama have been provided a photo ID by this mobile campaign that John Merrill, the Alabama Secretary of State, is heralding as the most progressive and proactive and aggressive campaign to make sure that everyone who wants a voter ID can get a voter ID. So nothing to see here, folks. Everything is fine. We're going to make sure. One follow-up question. There have only been 29 people provided with a photo ID. Now, how many people need them? Thankfully, Chris Hayes did his homework. He always does his homework. That's one thing you say about Chris Hayes. He does his homework. 250,000 people in Alabama need a voter registration ID, a voter photo ID. So while John Merrill is going around with this talking point, going around on NPR. I love NPR, but sometimes they just try to play it too straight, and they did not follow up with a simple question of how many people has your aggressive campaign provided a photo ID for? Out of 250,000 people who need IDs. And in 31 counties where they have closed the DMV, which is traditionally your number one method of getting an ID, only 29 people have been provided with a photo ID. Now, tell me again, what do you think is the purpose of all of these laws, of all of these changes that are being made? What again? Tell me.
Voting rights activists.
Tell me again, Terzai. That's what I'm looking for. What is the purpose?
Voter ID, which is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state of Pennsylvania. Done.
Is there anything else that needs to be said? Join the conversation, 857-600-0518. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show.
When you're ready to lose weight, why count, track, and worry over every meal? Jenny Craig makes it simple. Just walk into a neighborhood Jenny Craig center or give us a call. You'll meet your dedicated personal consultant who helps you reach your goals. Together, you'll pick out delicious Jenny Craig foods that you'll love and design a menu that fits your life. And the best part is that you can get started losing weight right away. Don't wait any longer to take advantage of our best offer ever. Call 1-800-JENNY20 or visit jennycraig.com.
This is the sound of salmonella gyrating on your undercooked chicken. And it looks like Mom might be taking it out a little early. Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. So use a thermometer to cook each type of meat to the right temperature. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
I'm making beef sliders for my friend Sandy. Nana taught me to always pull meat off the grill early so it's extra juicy.
Use a food thermometer to ensure ground beef is 160 degrees, or you could make people really sick. Sandy didn't think twice about the slider she ate until yoga class, when a nasty case of food poisoning turned her downward-facing dog into upward-moving lunch. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov and learn the steps Maria unwittingly leaves out. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. Warm fleece on a cold day.
I want to be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome back.
If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
All right. Okay, that should. I just triggered something to play, and apparently it doesn't want to play. Let's see. Is it still queued up? Where? Yeah, that should have worked. Let's try it again.
It's Freedom Friday.
Just got paid. It's Friday night. It's Friday. You ain't got no job. And you ain't got shit to do.
All right, folks. I have a couple of things. Well, no, I only have one more thing that I want to talk about. And like I said, I have to get out of here early today because I have to go downtown and take care of some good business, some good stuff that I need to take care of. So I want to talk about Bristol Palin. In the broader context, she just falls right in line with everything else that I talk about with regard to Republicans and conservatives. But in this case, she's not really a Freedom Friday topic. I just wanted to play that. So I play that. And then I'll start rambling on about some other things that have been on my mind. But I just read an article about Bristol Palin complaining about girls being provided with free birth control. I think you would get the humor right away if you realize that she's pregnant yet again with a child out of wedlock, which is, kind of a slap in the face of all of the people who paid her tens of thousands of dollars to come and speak on behalf of abstinence. But she has a problem with girls getting free access to birth control, which would have prevented her from getting pregnant. It's comical. It is funny, but I'm not a comedian, so I can't really express and convey how ridiculously funny this is, or ironic, or just tragic in terms of common sense. Right? She has a platform, and I you know, sometimes I come across her blog because we blog at in the same space. She blogs for Patheos Conservative Evangelical or something like that, and I blog for Patheos Progressive Christianity. That's where I blog. So my space is about, you know, my space is all about, you know, those of us who use our faith to make the world a better place. Her space in the evangelical space on Patheos is really about, you know, you should be doing it exactly like this. You should be, you know, your life you should obey the rules that I tell you to obey. Here's the problem with it, Bristol. You're not even following your own rules. You know, you're not even following your own morals. You know, you're not following your own teaching, the very things that you got paid to speak on. If I got paid to speak on weight loss, then I should not be at Burger King like I was yesterday. Guilty. I'm sorry. My team that I've been working out with, I ate Burger King yesterday. The Halloween burger, and it wasn't really good. I thought it was going to be a lot better, but that's besides the point. The point is this: if you are propping yourself up to be a person who is preaching morals, wouldn't it make sense that you actually live by those morals? Does that make, you know, which is one of the reasons why, you know, one of the reasons I'm no longer a quote unquote pastor, right? Or even a preacher, is because, you know, there's just certain aspects of church that I could no longer live by. One of it was having other people tell me how my life is supposed to be, or what I'm supposed to believe, or what my politics should be. And because I could no longer live by that, I just say, you know what? That's not for me. I have to take a step back and let me go do me. But it's the hypocrisy of people trying to instruct us on how we should live our lives, and they are not even capable of doing it themselves. And now I had to stumble. I was writing a blog last night for Patheos, and I stumbled onto, or was it this morning? I forget. Whenever I first saw it, I stumbled onto Bristol Palin's blog because, like I said, we share some of the same space, so I can't help but to see some of her stuff. And she's complaining about something that would help prevent girls from having unwanted pregnancies. The irony speaks for itself. If I was a comedian, I'm sure I can nail that, but it's the irony speaks for itself. So with that being said, I'm also doing another project that I want you guys to be a part of. I'm doing a project over at Patheos about people who have left religion. And, you know, even though I left pastoring and ministering and all that, I'm not doing that. I have not left religion, but I'm interested in seeing people who have, and what are the reasons? Because I have this thing in my head that I really believe, but instead of just ranting about it, I'm putting some meat on the bones about the biggest threat to religion is religion. Right? It's the biggest threat to religion is not secular humanism. It's not atheism. It's not it's none of those things. The biggest threat to religion is religion. And that's why you see people leaving religion. You see people leaving churches in droves because of religion. They're not leaving the churches in droves because secular humanism is so seductive, right? That it's just enticing and pulling people away. No, they're leaving in droves because there's a disconnect in religious circles that is pushing people of good conscience and people of with skeptical minds and people who actually like to think. It's pushing them away. So I'm doing a survey, and I'll post the link later on, but I want you to go to the BenjaminDixonShow.com/survey. Don't go to that link right now. Go after the show so I can finish setting up the link. But go there, and I want you to fill out the survey and tell me about why you left religion, why you left, because I just want to gather these surveys, and I have my opinion, but I give you my opinion all the time. In this regard, I want your opinion. I want your feedback. If you were formerly a person of faith and you left, I want you to tell us why. Tell us why, so that I can gather it and see some of the commonalities. What are the intersections? What are some of the things that people are saying, so that I can go back and tell the people that I still go to church with, and tell people who are still in the church, you know, you're doing this to yourself. You are destroying yourselves. Atheists can't destroy you. I don't think that they even care. Some of them may want to, but for the most part, we're doing it to ourselves. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. So I want your voice on that, and I want your voice on some other things. So feel free to leave your comments. On yesterday, someone left a comment. These are just last minute ramblings as I get ready to get out of here because I have to catch the train. On yesterday, I hosted my professor, Dr. David Butler from University of Southern Mississippi, and we talked about cultural appropriation. And I had very different feedback. One strand of feedback was very positive in the sense that it was an enriching conversation. Then I had another strand of feedback was we're just rehashing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again in terms of cultural appropriation and the responsibility of white people to fix some of the things that they broke. Dr. David Butler, if you haven't seen the video, he's white. So he was speaking on behalf of a white person who feels that there are some things that white people have a responsibility to. I want to say this about the, I appreciate your feedback, even if it's negative or if it's positive. But in regards to this particular show yesterday, and I have to cut it up because there's some very poignant points in there that I want you to see. And it was a 2-hour conversation, so I don't expect you to watch it all. But some of the things that stood out the most to me was the fact that a lot of the positive change that his research demonstrates may have been triggered by some of the things that we rehash all the time. So even though we're rehashing some things, the conversation itself, the conversation about race, and as uncomfortable as the world has gotten, that is leading to some really progressive changes in a lot of circles. And this is not just an anecdote. This is where he has done research on the changes that he's seen in the South in terms of museums and plantations and cultural appropriation and the demand for a realistic look at what happened during slavery versus the Scholar O'Hara Gone with the Wind, sanitized version of it. People are demanding something that is real. And that only comes, I'm sorry, hang on, let me clarify that even more. That isn't coming from Black America. That demand for realness is coming from white America, because 97% of the people who go in his study were white. I'm rehashing this because I think it was very, very important in terms of the broader conversation, that these conversations that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, that make you want to change the channel quickly, just keep in mind that these conversations are changing other people in a very positive way. So that if you are tired of the conversation, I'm more tired of the conversation. I would prefer to talk economics than I would about race. But there are some really positive changes that are occurring because people are having these difficult conversations. And so that's why I want to cut up the conversation from yesterday. I'll chop it up later on today and post it so that you can see for yourself without having to watch the entire 2 hours that there are some positive changes that are being made, and they're being made in the minds of people. This is not legislation. This is not new laws being passed. This is a cultural change. And that is the real battlefront on race relations. So that's it, folks. I think this is a good spot as any. I have a lot of clips that I have to cut up. I have to get downtown to do some stuff. I appreciate you. Go over to the BenjaminDixonShow.com/survey. I want you to fill out the survey if you are a person who used to be a person of faith, but you left the faith. And even if you left the faith and went back, or even if you have some insight into it, even if you've never been a Christian and you want to give some feedback, I want you to go over there and give me some feedback. I also want you to go to Twitter, follow me at the BPD Show. You know what to do. Go over to YouTube, subscribe to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Go to all the places that you can support us. Most importantly, go to the BenjaminDixonShow.com and sign up for our blog. I can't reiterate, that is the most important way that you can support us at this juncture. I'll send you guys some good clips over the weekend to make up for these last 20 minutes that I'm getting out of here. So you guys have a great weekend.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other. Love
is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.